were saying like the hospitals didn't know what to do with the bodies.
Exactly.
So they were.
So you see, like, even on TV, like you pull up pictures, you see a lot of bodies just piled on top of each other, like if it was like in a third world country or something, because they just didn't have no way to store them. You know, they didn't have a freezer. Everything was, you know, even like in the nursing homes, when people would die, and you know the people that come home to pick up the bodies to take them to the funeral home, they would literally wait there for hours. You know what I mean? Because I actually called one of the funeral guys. I'm like, you know, we have a body to be picked up, and they're like, oh well, you have to wait. I still have a body, you know, in somebody's home with children, and they've been in there for a day. You know, that's decomposing. So
who picked up the bodies?
Huh?
I never even thought of this. Who picked up the bodies?
Well, we call a nursing home, and those are the people you see that come in like all black, and they come and remove the bodies from the nursing home.
Do they come from the funeral home, or who are these people?
Yeah, because that's who we usually call is the funeral.
Okay.
Home. So, you know, there was no like the morgue and stuff like that.
So they weren't able to pick them up, so they had to be stacked. And you're talking about at the hospital or the nursing home?
Well, I'm talking about
both?
Specifically where I worked, in the nursing home.
In the nursing home, okay.
Yeah.
Was there a room where they put everything? I won't say like what nursing home it is.
No, we just leave them in there, basically their bed, their room. You know, we just, you know, put the curtain around, you know, try to, you know, give them some type of respect.
Okay. But they would be there for like a couple days.
They'll be there for hours.
Okay.
I mean, one
usually
person was there for a day. And that's really a long time, because usually they're supposed to pick up maybe a couple of hours, you know, but to be there for a day, that's, you know, the body decomposes, so it's not really
within a day. How much like decompose? This sounds like a weird comparison, but my cat died and the body started smelling right away.
Oh yeah.
Like within an hour or so.
Well, me personally, I didn't go in there. I mean, I would just leave the body, and then just, you know, there's really much you can do. You know, you just wait till they come in a body bag and then come get them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were describing something that was really interesting about how, first of all, you were understaffed with the nurses, and they would probably call you from the pool. I used to work for the pool as a nurse's aide a long time ago, so that's how I know how that works. So there wouldn't be enough staff, and there would be like somebody would perform CPR, and then the patient would die anyway, and then they would have to go do CPR on somebody else.
CPR is like they call a code blue, like back to back. It was just like back to back, and then, you know, us being short staffed, we didn't even have the energy, you know what I mean, to do CPR and to keep running back and forth. It was.
You're saying you lost like maybe 10 people a day or more?
Yeah, it was a lot. It was, actually, they say
I can't imagine
nursing homes was hit harder than hospitals, you know. We just didn't have the equipment to help them. And then, I mean, at one point, I had a patient that was coding, and, you know, I gowned up, you know, about to give CPR, and then my supervisor was like, no more CPR. The governor has said nursing homes and EMTs are no longer able to give CPR. So even if the person... I didn't know. The governor said that? Yep. Even if the person was a full cold, you are no longer able to give them CPR because it puts us at risk. The only people that were allowed to give CPR was the hospitals. I never heard that. So the hospitals, meaning who? Because like the hospitals, I would think, would be the nurses. Exactly, but the nurses in the nursing home or the EMTs weren't giving CPR anymore. They weren't giving CPR anymore. Then who was? Nobody? If we can get them transferred quicker to the nursing home, I mean the hospital, then, you know, they would do it. But no CPR in the nursing home? Yeah. Okay. Exactly. I mean, we'll put oxygen on them, keep them comfortable, but because it was such a high risk to the nurses, especially for us who didn't have the equipment, as well as EMTs, you know, they don't have the equipment as if they were actually in a hospital. So, you know, as I'm about to give CPR, she's just like, no more, stop. But you, in other words, you had to kind of let them die. Exactly. Rather than, Exactly. And it was so crazy because especially somebody who's a full cold, you know what I mean? Like, who makes these decisions? Usually the family makes the decision for the government to say, that's it. You know what I mean? It was like, it was crazy. I mean, I guess it was to protect the nurse. Like I said, we only had a little bit of nurses, and the little bit of nurses we did have, I guess they wanted to protect even the EMTs. Because I remember when the EMTs came in And it was like, well, we're not doing CPR either. So I said, wow.
The EMTs wouldn't do CPR either.
Either, yep. That's what they had told me when they had came in. We're not doing CPR either. I said, wow.
I'm surprised by that.
Because, when you're pumping on somebody's chest, the fluids and everything can,
to keep the workers as safe as possible, I guess.
Exactly. Even with the PPE.
As you were saying, as far as them being sent to the nursing home rather than the hospital, that makes sense because the hospital was overloaded.
Exactly.
However, the nursing homes didn't have
the equipment.
To
keep them alive. Like,
right. And you couldn't even do CPR.
Yeah, exactly.
So then they had to go back to the hospital anyway. There was just no place to put people.
And then when they went back to the hospital, they kind of died anyway because how much staff did they really have, or equipment? Because we didn't even have ventilators. You see how the New York, Jersey, all over was struggling for ventilators.
Oh yeah, that was around March and April, I think.
Exactly. And the people who was on ventilators that they knew wasn't going to make it, they kind of just like, you know how like you want to spend time with your family before they die. If they're on a ventilator, they're kind of just brushing them off like, we need this ventilator now because we know this person is dying, so we needed to save someone who actually has a chance.
So you had to decide who was most likely to survive, and they got the ventilator.
Exactly.
I can't believe people actually went through this.
Yeah.
Or that you went through it. Did it change you as a person? I mean, it had to change your perspective, like, on everything.
It changed how I viewed, like, Trump was president, so I felt he could have came sooner. Like, you see all these countries, they moved way quicker than the United States did. So
I totally agree.
Korea, all these places wasn't as hit as hard as the United States because in January, Trump got the message that this is, it's starting to spread.
He knew about it. He downplayed it.
He didn't put it into effect until March. So he waited about 70 days after he received the message. So I blame the government. We didn't have a strong leader.
I drove a guy the other day who actually digs the graves, and of course they needed like a lot more people. They still need more people, he said. I talked to someone who runs a funeral home, and they just didn't know what to do with all the bodies, basically. But we don't see that. I'm driving for Uber. This is what I see. Beautiful, quiet roads. You do not see what's going on, and it seems like no matter how many programs you watch, you still don't get a perfect idea of, like, I'm like, I want to know so bad. Like, I wish there was a movie, or if there was a camera following you guys around, but you got HIPAA laws and everything, so. But
and I actually did home care on the side in the beginning, and they had called me and they said, because I only went to him maybe a couple days a week, they called, their agency called me and said his primary nurse has COVID. And I said, okay. So I think it was after they told me that, but I had went to the boys' home, and they didn't give us PPE right away. So I believe I had contracted from the nurse to the little boy. They gave it to me, and the boy eventually, they called me and they said the boy's in the hospital. Little boy's in the hospital.
So you got it from the little boy?
I believe I did, because I didn't start feeling symptoms until after the fact. So they said, oh, the little boy's in the hospital, and that's when 2 weeks later he told me he passed. And a lot of us stopped working at home cares with them kids because a lot of them has trach, and once they get COVID,
they have what?
Trachs.
Okay.
So it's like once they get COVID, they don't have the immune system to fight it. Them kids that's really sick, they can't fight it. So a lot of people would stop working home care. I had a nurse who watched babies, sick babies, and she said I had to stop because I work in a nursing home. I don't want to be responsible for the death of.
Okay. So they're transferring what they pick up in the nursing home to home care.
It's hard for anybody that died, but then it's even harder for children, you know what I mean? Children that didn't have to die.
Do you feel like you could have passed it to somebody?
Oh, I'm pretty sure I did. Of course. Because
we all passed it to each other.
And you didn't even know when you had it. So, me, I knew because I didn't have the craziness that, fever and all of that, but I did have, I couldn't eat. So I knew something was off. And my DON was telling me to cancel my vacation. Like, you got to come to work, we need you. I'm like, I'm sick, and they didn't even care. They was willing to fire people if you didn't come, COVID or not.
Wow.
COVID
Where was not. That was the pool though? That
no,
wasn't.
This is actually specifically my nursing home, but
Okay.
The
nursing home.
The DON ran it, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of good information. I give these to my favorite riders. So a little bit of stuff about the Bible. I don't know if you if you're a believer or what. But yeah. Oh, good.
Thank you.
That helps a lot too. Your faith going through this type of thing, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
So that was just one small snapshot of what the rest of us were not seeing while we were at home. And I'm not criticizing anyone who stayed home. I mean, we did what we were supposed to do. I was on unemployment. I wasn't working for Uber. I was, you know, if we listen to the governor, then we can allow the governors to organize things as well as possible, especially if they're working together, as at least Cuomo and Murphy were. I think a lot of us are really wondering, well, this is how I feel. Like, when it's people that have gone to war, I'm sorry, I want to know what they went through. I want to know what it's like. I want to know what it feels like to take a bullet, you know, what it feels like to have your friend pass away right next to you.